Today I'm taking a 45-minute flight from London City Airport to Amsterdam Schipol on a KLM Cityhopper Embraer E190. And believe it or not, this is my first time ever flying KLM, so I'll use this video as a test to see how KLM compared to British Airways and other European airlines, and see how easy it is to connect at Schiphol Airport onto another KLM flight to Dubai. So buckle up and enjoy this review of what would turn out to be a very scenic and efficient flight. I've covered London City Airport a few times on this channel, so won't go into too much detail, but long story short, it's probably the most efficient airport in the world. And KLM operate about 8 flights a day here on weekdays. I arrived 1 hour before departure, but that was unnecessary as it took 5 minutes from stepping off the DLR to arriving at the gate. In the past, I've even showed up just 30 minutes before departure, and that was still plenty of time. And they also have those new scanners, so you don't have to remove liquids and laptops from your bag, making security a breeze. It gets pretty busy on weekday mornings as all the business travellers jet off to Luxembourg and Frankfurt and whatnot. I was here on a Saturday morning, so it was relatively quiet. PS, if you want to see my review of this Luxair Dash 8, which I've flown quite a few times now, or that BA E190, then check out my channel or the links in the description below. I also have reviews of Lufthansa, Helvetic and Sunair of Scandinavia too, if any of those airlines pique your interest. Now I just need to make an A220 or ATR72 video and I'll have pretty much flown every commercial aircraft that flies here. So consider subscribing if you want to see that. I'm pretty sure this is also the only airport in the world where you get people rowing within a few meters of the runway. But anyway, here's our plane arriving from Amsterdam, a 7-year-old Embraer E190 registered PHEXY. According to the Inflight Magazine, KLM have a pretty substantial 26 E190s in their fleet, as well as 17 E175s and 22 of the newer E195 E2s. Now before we board, here's the route map and stats for today's flight. We would have a very scenic takeoff out east over London before heading northeast over the North Sea and approaching Amsterdam from the north for an equally scenic landing, for a total flight time of just 44 minutes, arriving 31 minutes early. Also, here's the seat map for this E190 with 30 to 32 inches of seat pitch in a 2-2 layout. Here I got a great close-up view of the aircraft before this woman came and ruined my shot. So not wanting to dally any further, I followed suit and climbed the steps onto the rear of the plane and was greeted by a friendly member of the cabin crew. Here's my seat, 21A, which is almost at the back of this 100-seat aircraft. Legroom and width are pretty good, so no complaints there, and with the 2-2 layout, it's just a great aircraft for short-haul flights. Much better than your typical A320 or 737 with 3 seats on each side of the aisle, which makes me feel trapped in since I always sit in the window seat. The only downside is the seat is a little hard, but not enough to be noticeable on a 45-minute flight. There's a USB port too. And the great thing about flying from this airport is just how close to the city we are. Being able to see skyscrapers from a plane that close is pretty cool. Sadly we didn't fly over them today, but if you do get lucky, then it's one of the best landing or takeoff views in the world in my opinion. Also quite surprising is that KLM still have an in-flight magazine, which you don't see very often these days. And best of all, it has a detailed fleet page and multiple route maps, which I always love to see as I could spend a solid 10 minutes just looking at these. After a very speedy boarding, we taxied about 100 meters to the runway and were treated to some great city views taking off, so stay tuned for that. As soon as the seatbelt sign went off, the cabin crew started service, which on this flight consisted of a water bottle and an oatmeal cookie, which tasted good, but I question why they chose to serve one of the crumbliest foods in the world on this flight. It's like they want people to spill crumbs everywhere. And that was pretty much it for the flight, as it was only 44 minutes long. Now get ready for our approach over the city of Amsterdam into Schiphol Airport. Also worth noting that Schiphol has a whopping 6 runways, which seems crazy coming from London, where Heathrow only has 2 and is much busier. So the good news is that Amsterdam is less likely to have large queues of planes waiting to take off and land, but if you're unlucky you'll get stuck on this runway, which is a ridiculous 5 kilometers from the terminal.
To wish you a pleasant stay, a welcome home, or a good and safe onward journey. On behalf of all crew working on this flight, thank you for choosing KLM Cityhopper today, and we hope to welcome you on board one of our flights again soon. Have a lovely remainder of your day and goodbye. Aan boord een van onze vluchten te mogen verwelkomen. Nog een hele fijne dag toegewenst en graag.
Cabin crew, disarm slides.
So, here we are at Amsterdam Schipol Airport, the 4th busiest in Europe and 17th busiest in the world, with about 67 million passengers in 2024, which impressively all fit into one single large terminal. By the way, KLM do tend to be quite expensive when flying short haul in Europe, as much like British Airways at Heathrow, they kind of have a monopoly at Schiphol Airport. But unlike Heathrow, Amsterdam doesn't have any budget airports nearby like Gatwick or Stansted to keep costs in check. I paid for this flight using points, but a typical one-way price for this flight is £80 to £100, which for London City Airport is actually quite reasonable, as flights here are usually more expensive. Meanwhile, EasyJet would cost that price for a return ticket from Gatwick, or you could take the Eurostar for some extra comfort at a similar price to KLM. So KLM doesn't really have much of a value proposition, but the in-flight experience is pretty solid. And before I give my final review score, let me just take a moment to say how great Amsterdam Schipol is for connections, specifically for non-Schengen connections. There's no security and no passport control. You just walk off your plane, or bus in our case, then get dropped right in the middle of the departure area. There are transfer desks if you need a new boarding pass, and you can literally be at your next gate in a few minutes. But I'll talk about the airport more in my next video reviewing KLM on a flight to Dubai. So here's my final thoughts and score. And whilst the score is quite low, it's not KLM's fault, as let's face it, no airline can really differentiate themselves much on a short flight like this. And you'll get a better picture of the KLM experience in my next flight with them to Dubai in their 777 economy. So after all that, I'll give them a very solid 8 out of 10 on my airline tier list, which covers all the airlines I've flown on this channel. Now here's a preview of my next 2 videos. First, that Boeing 777 flight to Dubai, which was very pleasant actually, and they have a cool feature where you can pre-order an upgraded economy meal for an extra fee, which turned out to be one of the best economy meals I've ever had. Then on the way back, I tried the mysterious Royal Brunei, the little known airline from Brunei who happened to offer some of the cheapest direct flights from Dubai to London. This one only costs £165, so stay tuned for that and more. So thanks for watching, please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video.